If you've been sending your CVs and you've been getting silence or generic rejections, then this video is for you. Whether you're an aspiring solicitor trying to break into the industry or a junior lawyer trying to work your way up the ranks, your CV is going to be crucial, and it's either opening doors or closing them. I'm Egbe Manton and I am the founder of ILG, and we work with hundreds of aspiring solicitors and junior lawyers each year. And we also have worked with some amazing big clients such as DLA Piper, Sainsbury's, UBS, and PayPal. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through some of the key aspects that you should be thinking about in your CV. And then we're going to look at a real CV so that we can understand how it works in practice. We've linked it in the description. So if you want to shortcut, we have created a CV and cover letter template just for you. You'll find the details in the description. And if you're freaking out and you're kind of like, I don't know where to start, well then feel free to book a call with us. Again, details are in the description. Make sure you watch right to the end because I'm going to be sharing key things that you can be doing today to ensure that your CV is hitting the right mark with recruiters. All right, let's pull up this CV and go through it together.
Firstly, a big well done for taking the time out to make sure that your CV is correct. So big congratulations and well done on that. Take notes, think about exactly what do you think might need to change in your CV in order for it to be showcasing you in the best way possible. So make sure that you're in a quiet space where you can take notes and really take in the information. I would also suggest let's put your mobile phone in a drawer somewhere because I'm the worst out of everyone in terms of my mobile phone and getting distracted. It's really important that we nail your CV. So we're going to really need your undivided attention if possible. So for the next now 18 minutes, we're going to run through this CV of Joanna Savoy. She is a completely fictitious individual. So not one of our students and not somebody that we know. But what we've done is we've created a CV that we see often in a nutshell. And hopefully it will help you to show you what's missing, what you might need to add to your CV and give you some tips going forward. So let's start off with the first section. First section is all about your contact details. And here, Joanna doesn't do a bad job in and itself. She's put her name, full name, and put it in bold so it's clear whose CV is this. How do I, referring back to my notes, I'm able to just know immediately this is Joanna. She was pretty good because of A, B, and C. So we want to make it as easy as possible for her to be contacted. So what we suggest is in your contact point, so I'm going to just highlight this so you can see this. Just here, this is fine. She's got her email, which is absolutely fine. Taking it to the next level, we would tell her to hyperlink it so that it's ultra easy for them to be able to contact her if they want to bring her to the next stage. Mobile phone's absolutely cool, but an additional factor that we would say to consider is including your LinkedIn profile. Now, for some of you, this might be a bit more of a challenge because you might not even have a LinkedIn profile. If you don't, it's time to get one. We will be doing another video on LinkedIn profiles, don't worry. But if you don't currently have one, do get one. If you do, make sure it's conveying what you want it to. You want to obviously be able to show that you have a passion for the law. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile reflects this. We would also say here, just to include it maybe here, and again, hyperlink it so it's ultra easy for the reader to be able to see. Joanna's recently, I can see, done an insight day, or she's done a commercial insight program, which again shows and builds that gravitas that you're committed to the law in some way. Now, the next section we're going to move on is this education bit. And why this is important is because education shows and just informs the reader about what you've done recently. But before we get into that, I want to show you something that's really, really important. So here you can see that she talks about her education and she puts it in a certain format. So we've got a line that goes across here, education in bold and in caps, and then another line. So then you would expect that to follow throughout the whole CV, wouldn't you? Well, here, work experience doesn't follow. Instead, what she's done it the date in this kind of format, which is now very confusing. And then she doesn't again do it for this particular date, but there's a random line here. So it gets a bit confusing. You'd expect it to be here under interest and achievements. We'll talk about this typo later, but she doesn't do this. So if you're going to commit to something in your CV, formatting it in a particular way like you have up here, then make sure this is reflective of all of your sections. Some of you will say, why is this important? It's important because you're busy telling your recruiter or your HR person that you have great attention to detail, all the skills necessary to become an amazing lawyer, but yet you can't seem to pick this out in your CV. So let's not give them a reason to put our CV in the bin and make sure that you want to make sure that you're being consistent. So if you're going to take this sort of format, ensure that you also do it for these particular sections as well. For example, again, if you're using bold and you're saying September 2022, in terms of the fact that you went to the University of Nottingham, then you should be doing that for all of these other dates also. It just creates a level of consistency and shows a bit of structure. Now, moving away from formatting for the time being, I want to focus in on this education section. And this is important because we do get questions from students around, okay, should I be including in this section here in terms of my degree? Do I need to put all of the modules that I studied? And what we normally tell students is, yes, put your degree. And if you've graduated, put your classification. And if there are maybe standout topics that you've done really well at, particular modules that you just really enjoyed, then why not include them here? So maybe 2 or 3 modules that you might have done really well in, maybe gotten a 70 or 80% and above, you can just add those particular ones here. Or if those modules are relevant to the job that you're applying for, we would also say maybe pick out 1 or 2 of those modules that you've excelled in that is relevant to the job. Now here, what we can tell from Joanna, she is an English literature and philosophy degree. It's absolutely fine, and she told us that it's at the University of Nottingham. Where it gets slightly confusing is then she talks about her time at Charlotte Academy and tells us her. But let's see. Can you see what's missing here? Just above here, we would expect there to be a date. So when did she start studying there? When did she finish studying there? And the same for her GCSEs, the start and finish date is missing. Again, attention to detail is key. We would expect that to be in there so that it's easy for the reader to then understand, okay, has Joanna been up to in this period of time? Also, she talks about her A in English, which is brilliant, and then her Bs in business and mathematics, which is also great. But then the formatting here slightly changes because she talks about 11 As and 2 A stars, which are great grades, but then she's just including maths, English, and science. So I'm thinking, okay, what would have been nice is the A stars are really high marks, so to be honest, so are the A's, right? So it would have been good to understand, okay, did she get A star in? Was it anything that was relevant for law? Or maybe just pull out those modules in general. Now I'm thinking, do the A stars are they any one of these topics or is it something else? And we just don't want any ambiguity in the CV. So if there's any kind of standout marks like these 2 A stars, think about, want to pull them out and let people know what those topics are, especially if they're relevant to where you're applying in terms of your job. So that's education. Now let's move on to work experience because this is probably going to form the meat of your CV and what I'm going to probably spend the most of the time of today on. Remember, what we're doing at the moment is just giving you high level kind of you to think, how can I improve my CV? We go into a lot of detail. We go through exercises to make sure that they've pulled out all of the work experience from each of their roles, and then we then get them to redraft it, and we then support them in that drafting, making sure that at the time we finish with all of these sections, that it's showcasing their best skills. Now, the questions we normally get from this piece is, okay, why should I include things like this, which is not specific kind of legal focused type role? For example, if you've been in retail or you've been in tech or in another industry that's not legal, should this be included? And what we would say is all experience is important. So we get this question, as I said, quite a lot from us about this. And these work experiences are still really, really, really important. And please do not downplay them. What we notice is a trend of thinking, oh, well, in the example where they don't have legal work experience, that in some way putting a retail job on there, their chances in being able to secure a legal role. And what I'm here to tell you is that's not the case. It's about how you showcase your skills obtained during that position and your responsibilities that you've undertaken during that work experience. That is the most important aspect. So please do not think that that is going to in some way hinder you. What we've just got to do is understand what did you actually do within that role and how can it be of benefit. So let's have a look at experience here, because both of these experiences are not legal, right? So For example, firstly, I just want to have a look at the dates again. I don't know what's happening here, but let's just make sure your dates run well, because here she apparently is still a waitress at French's, which is absolutely fine. But then there's a possibility of her potentially still working at Bob's Lobster, because are we taking this that she only worked there for 1 month, that she's still working there? The reason why that question has come up is because usually your most recent work experience would be at the top, right? So my pushback on this would be, if you're still working at French's as a waitress, that should really move up to here, and then Bob's Lobster would come underneath that, as it's a slightly older work experience. Or it might be that, for example, maybe she just hasn't reflected the fact that she's finished at French's and she might be working at Bob's Lobster. The point is, ambiguity is not fun for anyone. So let's just clear this up and make sure it is as it should be. Then moving over here to this section here, I'm going to read this out to you so you can kind of where we're coming from. So what we understand from this is that at this particular place, she was an assistant, and she was an assistant within I'm assuming, the marketing team. So then here she said she worked towards specific deadlines. She adhered to the writing guide for students to ensure the writing was suitable for a professional audience, and then targeted promotion on social media to get as many viewers as possible. Now, this is okay as a starting point, but this doesn't really tell us much. It's not really showcasing the skills that she picked up at this particular work experience. So rather than putting, for example, working towards specific deadlines, give us some context. Who are the type of clients that you worked with? How big was the team? What was your role? Like, let's try and be slightly more detailed in our approach, because the person that reads this section will not know anything about you, and saying things like working towards specific deadlines doesn't tell me anything. Like, how did you work towards those specific deadlines? How did you multitask? How did you do that? Did you work with other team members? Did you use post-it notes? Do you balance client expectations versus expectations? Like, that's how the process is as important as the result. So when you say things like working towards specific deadlines, then let's be as specific as possible. Rather than that, I might have, what I would usually say to students is, think about doing words. So she tried it here by saying working, but maybe change it to a particular task. So go into that particular task and had to manage deadlines or competing client deadlines by blah, 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 right? So you can see, even just from that sentence, it gives you slightly more context as to what your role was, what did you have to do, how did you work through that, and that's really important. It's the same for this bullet point here, where she talks about adhering to the writing guide for students, right? I don't know what that means. It's in bold. I'm sorry, it's in caps, but I don't know what that means. What is the writing guide for students? Again, context is important. Like, try and think of a way to be as specific as possible about your responsibilities. So with this, you want to be slightly more detailed, because nobody knows what the writing guide for students is. Again, give some context. And then here on this third bullet point, she talks about targeting. She did targeted promotion on social media to get as many viewers as possible. Okay, what does that mean? Because clearly this one bullet point can be broken down into 3. What did you do as for the promotion? Like, how do you know it was targeted? Who did you target? Number 1. So think in your CV, how, what, where, and why. And if you're not covering off these bullet points, chances are that you're not being as detailed as you need to be. Okay. Here I would say, okay, did you target the promotion? Did you do some research? Did you analyze the data? Like, all of this stuff into your CV, because it shows a multiple amount of skills that you have, the reader should know about. So then you talk about social media. Okay, social media, was it LinkedIn? Was it TikTok? Was it Instagram? It tells me then that you're able to work with all sorts of different platforms and judge what type of content needs to then go out to viewers. In that area alone, you're making multiple decisions and understanding who is the right audience on what platform. And even that is, again, another set of skills that you have that you're not showcasing in this particular bullet point. So I would suggest that you think about these how, what, where, and why with each of your jobs. Don't miss anything out. So for here, for example, where she talks about enhanced service skills, again, how? Why was it enhanced? The result, like, about maybe some of the things that you had to do. You had to maybe deal with complaints, or maybe you had to marketing promotions. Like, let's talk about exactly what you did and do that for each of your roles. Then I just want to quickly touch on this area, which is interest and achievements. And sometimes students do get a little bit carried away in this area and start listing off every type of thing that they may have touched on at any point within their school career. And it is important, don't get me wrong, but let's do like a high level key notable achievement section. Because what Joanna does here is into netball and she's into writing. That's cool. And then she goes into some big paragraph. And as you can tell from the red and the colors that are around here, it kind of falls down about here. Okay. She should have probably done is merge these two sections and did it like she did up here in bullet points, keeping that consistency, which she hasn't, unfortunately. Again, typos. Hello, typo. And what I would say is here, let's just make sure that we're running the CV through spell check. Some of you will say, "Oh, that's so basic," but yet here we are with spell check issues. You have been drafting your CV for the 18th, 19th time, and you're so tired of it, you're not going to be able to see these typos. So make sure you're running it through Google check, Microsoft Office spell check, Grammarly, like here, whatever you need to do, just to make sure it's clear exactly mistakes there might be within this CV. So once she has merged these two sections, the next type of thing to think about is pulling important stuff out. Like, for example, she talks about here a tutoring service Jojo teaches, but this is the first time I've heard about this. And what I love about this tutoring service is that it's her business, right? So even in this one line, she has so many skills that she's probably picked up through this business, right? So marketing, understanding your client, work, the delivery, getting the results. So I would expect this really to be here somewhere with a bit of detail because it showcases that she's, innovative. She uses her initiative. Like there's so many things here, but she just stuffs it in this paragraph that nobody's probably going to read because it's so far down into the paragraph, right? Again, bullet points will help them to guide the reader as to the key things you want them to know. So I would completely redraft this section. And then moving on to this last bit where we talk about languages, IT, and sport. Sport, again, she talks about sport here, so should have really been here. And then languages, I would draw more attention to this, and I would probably put this somewhere a bit more prominent than at the end of a paragraph. Because especially with the way that the world is moving at the moment, languages are so important. And the fact that she can speak French and English should be celebrated. Touching on IT, yeah, it's great that you're confident with Microsoft Office. This is now expected. So what I would have probably done here is probably think about more about other platforms that you might be using that might be helpful. So things like AI platforms, legal specific platforms that would be helpful to think about in this context, because then remember you're tailoring this CV to a kind of legal institution, law firm, house organization, chambers, whatever that looks like. You want to make sure that you're pulling out the key aspects for that particular application. So maybe tailoring this and showing the kind of legal research tools you've used or CRM systems would be really good. And then she's got her available requests. This music and movies bit I probably would have moved up a bit. I included it in here. By all means, her CV is quite short, and that's because I think this is where it falls down. With is this work experience? She hasn't been as detailed as possible. Just a quick tip on the work experience aspect. If you think you do not have work experience, legal work experience, you do. And if you don't, you can get it, right? If you've done anything with the CAB, so Citizens Advice Bureau, add that to it. If you've done any commercial insight days or schemes that law firms now run online virtually, then add it, because this all shows that you have it gives you gravitas and shows that at every opportunity you're looking for ways to improve on your skill set and your experience. So include it here. It is all relevant. That afternoon that you spent in the Crown Court, again, include it here. And if you haven't spent time in the Crown Court, you're able to do it. You're able to show up, go in, sign yourself in, and sit and watch court cases for a period of time. So even if you think, oh, how do I get work experiences? There's ways to do it. Call your local court, turn up at the court, or with a high street firm, look for your university to see if they've got any kind of advice clinics. These insight sessions by law firms or chambers, there are so many opportunities. Not sure where to turn? Send us an email. We can point you in the right direction. So hopefully this has been really helpful for you. If it has, then please do let us know so that we know that we're giving you information that is really helpful. So if you're all looking for all that kind of help, somebody, a legal coach in your area to back you in your application forms, then you know where to find us.
So that is how I would strengthen a legal CV. Remember, there's got to be clear impact, alignment with the role that you're going for, and also clear structure. These things cannot be underestimated. They are small changes, but they're going to make a real big difference in deciding whether or not your CV is going to be progressed to the next round.